He's Howard Eibach, a former copywriter and creative director and the author of 2 books on the creative brief.
And he's Henry Gomez, an ad agency strategist with over 26 years of experience. Together, we're the Brief Brothers, having an ongoing conversation about creative briefs, briefing, and advertising. We're back with another episode, Henry. Today, we have Bob Hoffman making his second appearance on the Brief Brothers, the first and only guest who appeared twice. Let's join the conversation. So we are back with, I think, our favorite guest and the first person to ever reprise,
What?
come back,
Bingo.
make it a second appearance. This is Mr. Bob Hoffman, the author of many books. He's the blog weasel. He is an iconoclast and the author of the most recent book, and what we're going to talk about today, Ad Scam. Bob, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's great to be back with the Brief Brothers. Now, I can only see your chests and heads. Is the fact that you call yourself the Brief Brothers the fact that you're wearing briefs on instead of pants? Is it?
I'll never tell.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
I'm trying
that's a new one on us.
I'm trying not to picture it. Is all I'm saying.
I'm wearing Bermuda shorts and sandals, but
and I got 501s, but anyway. So Bob, let me do my best to summarize in about a sentence your new book and tell me if I got it right.
Okay.
You argue that the algorithmic tracking utilized by the major tech companies like Amazon and Facebook present a existential danger to individual Americans and to this country. And you argue further that tracking should be banned. Do I got the gist?
Yeah, kind of. I would say that it's not just, who did you mention? Google and Amazon and Facebook. It's the whole online programmatic ad system that relies on tracking. And the programmatic advertising system is somewhere between 70 and 90% of all online advertising, which means it's somewhere between 2.8 billion and 3.5 billion dollars. No, 250 billion. 200. I'll get my math right in a second. It's several $100 billion worth of advertising is based on the on tracking, and that tracking is very bad for individuals. It's very bad for society. It's very bad for national security. It is a carrier of major fraud. And it is probably the whole system is illegal based on GDPR, and here in the US on the California consumer privacy laws.
And GDPR is, fill us all in, remind us again.
GDPR is the European regulatory framework. Thank you, Henry. That describes what you can and cannot do legally with people's personal private information. So, and it is my contention that based on GDPR, the whole ad tech system, which we call real-time bidding, is illegal. And it has, I think there is litigation going on now, which will determine whether or not I'm right about that.
So you kind of slipped it in there toward the end, but the part that fascinates me, or the part that really galls me, and not that the other parts don't gall me, like, that it's destructive to individuals and it can destroy national security. Like, I think that those things can be argued. Like, I could argue to you that if I'm an individual and I'm getting something from Google and I'm okay with giving them X amount of personal information, but to me, the part about the fraud, which is that all of this money is being spent by marketers and it's not really doing what is claimed that it's doing anyway. It's not really effective advertising process for them.
Mhm. Yeah, I would argue the exact opposite, Henry. I would say, to me, fraud is the least of the felonies. That if marketers are stupid enough to waste their money on this crap, then they're getting what they deserve to some degree. Now, it's still illegal and I still don't like it. But to me, the other dangers are far worse than stupid ass marketers losing billions of dollars. The dangers to individuals of being followed around and marketers knowing everything we say, everything we do, everywhere we go, everyone we talk to. The dangers for society that are created by the collection of data about us fed into algorithms and used to divide us, which I talk about in the book. The dangers for national security, which Congress is exploring now here in the U.S., and the fact that it's all illegal. To me, these are far worse than fraud being committed on idiotic marketers who don't know what the hell they're doing and are pissing away billions of dollars every year. To me, they're idiots, and they don't deserve to lose tens of billions of dollars every year. But if they're stupid enough, if they haven't figured out yet how much money they're losing and they're still participating in this system, then to some degree they're getting what they deserve.
So
Well, that's what we love about you so much, Bob, is because you sort of gingerly talk about this to be
Yeah,
for all the delicate
yeah.
egos out there. So
Yeah.
But
go
it's
ahead,
it's just been my experience that
Yeah.
The people that cancel other people, the people that it's not necessarily the ad tech companies that are. I see a lot of damage being done online to individuals and to our society, but I don't know that I necessarily put the blame at the feet of ad tech.
Henry, you haven't read my book yet, I think.
No,
Have you?
I actually just bought it and got
Okay.
the Kindle version.
Okay, let's have a conversation after you read my book and tell me if you still
Okay, I will.
believe that, because I think I think you're wrong. This has
And
nothing to do with canceling, has nothing to do with politics. Anyone in any area of the political spectrum should be appalled by what's going on.
I think one of the things I
Because
could compliment you, Bob, about your book was that it was so politically neutral. You're indicting the entire system, not because of its political leanings, but because of the damage. Algorithms are neutral. As you pointed out, they don't care whether you're left or you're right, you're Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal. All they care about is what can we get from you and how can we use that against you or for our purposes.
yeah, the problem is, we know about what happens in societies in which privacy is abused. We know it from left-wing societies. We know it from right-wing societies. We know it from the Communist Party in China and in Russia, who knew everything about everyone, followed them everywhere, had secret files on them, knew who they talked to. And the same thing happened in Germany with the Nazis. The Gestapo knew what everyone was saying, what everyone was doing. It's a very, very dangerous thing in any political environment. And it's never, the thing that makes it different now is that for the first time, it's not just government, it's marketers who know everything about us. The Gestapo and the KGB would be over the moon with happiness if they had the information that Google and Facebook and Amazon have about us. And we don't know where that leads.
Right.
But if you think it's going to lead to more democracy, I got a feeling you're kidding yourself, because it never leads that way. And governments are fabulous at inventing reasons to spy on people. They're geniuses at it. They can always invent some kind of threat that that means that they need to get into the files that Facebook and Google have. They need to get into the files that the ad tech industry has. And we have no precedent for this. And it is my opinion that it leads to nothing but trouble. And that's part of what I write about in the book.
So I know you've been discussing this for quite some time before your book came out. Now that the book is out, what's been the response? Are you moving the needle, or what's the reaction been?
I have no idea if I'm moving any needles or not. I know, I was asked to speak with at a conclave of the European Commission. The European Commission is the executive arm of the European Parliament. And I spoke to them a few weeks ago I was asked to do a little keynote for an all-day session they were having on digital policy. So I did that. And I'm going to be speaking to groups in Brussels at the European Parliament in March, and at The Hague in Netherlands also in March. And I am hoping that that will have some positive effect. But here in the US, the interest is much lower than it is in Europe. I think we're way behind Europe in understanding the difficulties and the damages that that tracking is doing. And but am I moving a needle? I hope so. I hope people are interested in this. There are so many problems in the world these days. There's so much bad shit going on that people have to pick and choose what they're going to pay attention to. And this is not high on the list of a whole lot of people, but I think it's one of the pressing issues of our time.
Well, California has taken the lead with its own legislation to protect privacy.
It has, but the problem is they haven't been enforcing it.
Yeah.
So passing legislation and not enforcing it is no better than having no legislation at all.
Well, that's a conundrum, because like you just said, this information in the hands of a government that always has excuses to get it. Well, the government is who's supposed to enforce these things, right? Like, even if Congress were to pass a ban on, a lot of these ad tech practices tomorrow, who's going to enforce it? The same Justice Department that can be weaponized to use this data. So, I just don't know what the solution for that conundrum is, other than all of us throwing away our tablets and our phones.
I think Bob's solution is pretty clear. You ban tracking. You just simply ban tracking.
No more tracking.
No more tracking.
That's
I mean, it's
answer.
a simple solution, but how do you get people to give up their cash cow?
Well, the truth is that Google and Facebook and Amazon and the whole ad tech industry can do targeting without doing tracking. You don't have to do tracking to do targeting. The advertising industry has done targeting for decades without tracking individuals. It's not that big a deal. And we know that a lot of online entities now are doing targeting without doing tracking. And there's not very much evidence that tracking is all that much more effective than the targeting methods we've used forever. So I am not convinced that ending tracking means anyone's going to lose a whole lot of money. They'll just use other methods for targeting, as we have for decades. But if they are going to lose a lot of money because of tracking, I don't care. To me, I got a feeling Google has enough money already, and
A
so
little
does
bit.
Facebook, and so does Amazon. So if they lose a little money, tough shit. What's more important, the integrity of democratic institutions or the convenience of marketers? I don't think it's a non-contest.
Well, Bob, what if we used our expertise as communicators and branders and reframed the question away from tracking into surveilling? I mean, surveilling is a
It's the
more
same thing.
ominous term, but
Yeah.
it's a term that people understand. Tracking
Yeah.
might not be as,
Yeah.
it may not register.
Tracking is just a pleasanter term for spying. That's
Yeah.
all it is.
So if we
Yeah.
say it's targeting versus surveillance, I think we can say we want to end surveillance and move back to targeting.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Okay.
Agreeable Bob today.
Yeah.
See?
Well, before we hit the
Mr.
record
Nice
button,
Guy. Yeah.
before we hit the record button, I was mentioning to you an article in the Wall Street Journal today that focused on Facebook. We won't
Yeah.
use its other name. That said it had dropped $800 billion in market value in 1 year.
Yeah.
Based on
What a shame.
yeah,
I
based
feel
on Mr.
terrible.
I know you do, and I can see the tears coming down your eyes. Based on Mr. Z's decision to focus on this thing called the M-verse,
Yeah.
that
The
which shall
metaverse.
not be named, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Voldemort of Adtech or technology. It also went on to say that other companies have lost, if not a similar dollar amount, a similar value amount in
Yeah.
a year or two, and have been able to recover. One in particular was Gap. So they're saying, the article writer was saying, well, past performance is no guarantee of future recovery, but is it possible that Mr. Z is going to learn some lessons from this, or you think he'll hold fast with his fantasy?
Well, he will hold fast until his shareholders revolt. You see, the advantage that he has is that he owns more than a majority of all the voting stock. So he can't be, in most companies, the board of directors can get rid of the CEO, or the shareholders can get rid of the CEO. But Facebook and Meta is structured in such a way that they can't do that with Zuckerberg, because he outsmarted them, and his Class B voting shares, he has most of them. So there's only two ways to get rid of him: by there being so much pressure on him to step aside that he can't ignore it anymore, or for government regulators to step in and say, you're a crook and you have to go. The government will never do that, I don't think. And the shareholders are a little too docile, I think, although there are some significant shareholders saying, what the hell is this guy doing? I think that could come to pass. Now, someone suggested, I think this was a great idea. I forget, it was in an article in a magazine that I read, and I don't remember who. They said that what Zuckerberg should do is leave Facebook, hire a CEO to run Facebook who's going to pay attention to it, because Zuckerberg is not. Zuckerberg is only, playing around in his metaverse. Hire a CEO to oversee Facebook and their other properties, and then take his metaverse company, what's it called? Reality Labs, I think he called it, is the technical term for it, and go private with that. Take your money, Mr. Zuckerberg, if you so believe in it so much, and go private with that, and you can run that, and let Facebook and the rest of the Facebook properties be run by someone who's actually interested in them now. I think that would be a very smart thing for everyone. It would get him out of Facebook, and he could play with his metaverse toy, and it would leave Facebook with a CEO who's interested in running it. It'll never happen, but it's a really good idea. Yeah.
Are there any tech giants out there who you would classify as the good guys, or maybe even leaning toward being good guys?
You know, probably Apple's the best of them. At least they acknowledge that privacy is an important issue. You know, they have privacy issues themselves. They're not, nobody's clean in tech world when it comes to tracking. Nobody's completely clean. But, you know, in my mind, at least, Apple is the one that seems to care about the issue.
They're making the right noises.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
making good noises, and they, you know, they were the first to get rid of. They weren't the first. I shouldn't say that. They're first of the major browsers with Safari that didn't do third-party tracking as much. So, yeah.
Well,
So-
go ahead, Harry.
I was just gonna ask about, you know, we're less than a week since Elon Musk took over Twitter.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on Twitter and Musk, and where do you think things are headed with regards to him?
Musk is in a very difficult situation. He's getting it from both sides, and he's going to continue to get it from both sides. I don't know what the hell he's doing in the social media business. He has no reason to be there other than his ego. You know, Musk is a genius at making things, right? He makes cars, he makes satellites, he makes tunnels, he makes
Flamethrowers.
rocket ships. What does social media make? It makes trouble. That's all. What the hell does he need that for? I don't understand what he's doing in that business. And he's gonna wind up, if he's not careful, Twitter is going to become his metaverse, and it's going to consume all his time, like what has happened with Zuckerberg. And he's going to be obsessed with getting Twitter right, which is impossible, because you can't satisfy. Twitter is the problem is not, you know, he's a tech guy. He can solve tech problems. He can't solve political problems. Twitter is a political problem. The left hates it, and now, as I'm reading today, the right hates it too, because he hasn't let Trump back in. He's not allowing all the nut jobs with their conspiracy theories back in. And so they're starting to hate on him now too. So plus it's a terrible advertising medium. Who the hell needs to be on Twitter? And if you don't need to be on Twitter, now is a great time not to be on it and to take a wait and see attitude to what happens. And you know, Twitter has made money 2 years out of the past 10. And the amount of money he has borrowed to buy Twitter, he needs to make $1 billion in profit every year just to pay off the debt that he has accumulated buying Twitter. So
well, maybe if he plays the lottery, this super lotto is, you know, 1.5 billion, and maybe that'll help.
that's my strategy. I don't know if it'll work for him. I'm hoping it works for me. But yeah, so I don't know what the hell he was thinking when he bought this thing. It's going to be nothing but trouble. And for what? It's for his ego, because he loves, you know, he has a bad case of guru-itis. He thinks because he's rich, he thinks has to comment on everything and have an opinion on everything. And it's cost him already, and it's going to cost him even more, because now that Google is his own, now that Twitter is his own little private toy, he's going to be commenting on everything. And you know, it's a bad idea.
But it'll be great fodder for you and the blog weasel. You'll have plenty to talk about.
I'm sick of writing about him already. And he's only been in the job for 5 days, and I'm already sick of writing about him.
I think you're right. I think as a business decision, it's probably pretty horrible. You know, I see it polarizing potential customers for his main business, which is electric vehicles. Like there are people that are now, you know, as competitors are starting to finally catch up and start putting electric vehicles into the market. It's like, why am I going to support this guy who I don't agree with, or who from either side, as you said? It's just like you're taking kind of, I think he had an image before of kind of this benignly crazy
Goofy.
genius.
Yeah, goofy genius.
That all in all was doing good for the world.
Right.
Whether that's true or not, but that was the image.
Yeah.
And now he's definitely like not making any friends.
He has hurt the Musk brand a lot with this. And the Musk brand has several sub brands, including Tesla. And you are right. Yeah, you are right, Henry. There are going to be people who are going to say, you know what? If I need an electric vehicle, I'll buy a Ford. I'll buy a Toyota. I don't really need to support this guy. He's a pain in the ass. I don't know what he represents. I don't know what he stands for. And why do I want to support him? So he may be hurting a lot of the Musk sub-brands unintentionally.
So speaking of hurting brands, one of the things I was just fascinated by reading, and you touched on this earlier in our conversation, was yes, there's a great deal of billions of dollars worth of fraud going on in the advertising aspect of the ad tech. But why should we spill tears over people who are, you know, making stupid decisions? You know, a fool and his money are easily parted. And can the ad industry hurt itself any more?
No.
Than it already has, based on all this stuff that you're sharing in your book?
We could not have invented, if we set out to invent the dumbest online advertising ecosystem imaginable, we couldn't have done a better job than what we have.
Sounds like the pandemic response.
Yeah. It is so crazy. Nobody understands it. Nobody knows what's going on. Money is being wasted. Money is being stolen, and nobody can figure out where it's going or what it's doing. And
worse than that, Bob, no one is fessing up to the fact that it's even happening.
Yeah.
CMOs deny it. Advertising agencies deny it. It's like, what's going on?
Worst of all are our advertising trade associations, the ANA and the 4As and the IAB and all those people who have a responsibility to be leaders, have a responsibility to tell the industry in an honest way what's going on, and they have completely caved to the ad tech industry. They're the lapdogs of the ad tech industry, and they absolutely refuse to stand up to these people, and it's disgusting.
Well, I work for a division of the ANA, the Marketing Training and Development Center. So maybe I have to recuse myself from this conversation. I don't know.
Yeah. If you stick around with me, they'll throw
the opinions stated in this broadcast are
do not reflect
only of Bob Hoffman,
Howard Eibach, and Henry Gomez.
So this is tangent, but I guess related to all of this bullshit. Can you explain to me what an NFT is and why anybody would want to buy one?
No, I can't.
Okay. You know, I sat in a talk at Cannes given by Gary Vaynerchuk and Paris Hilton about NFTs.
There's a pair to draw to.
Oh God.
Well, I mean, who else besides Paris Hilton would have more credibility?
Well, you know, the whole the whole thing be behind NFTs, and I think behind cryptocurrencies, is the bigger fool theory. You buy something, you know it's worthless, but you think there will be a bigger fool down the line who'll pay you even more for it than
It's a pyramid. It's a
than you
pyramid
paid.
scheme.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
Ponzi scheme
Yeah.
by another name.
Yeah. So, you know, us idiots, we can't understand these things. You know, you have to be a tech genius to understand why something that is worthless is really not worthless.
Like
That,
real estate in the metaverse.
yeah, right. Real estate in the metaverse.
Well, let me throw you a bit of a curveball here, Bob. This is probably an impossible question to answer, but let me
Oh,
try
I
it
love
anyway.
impossible questions. Yeah.
What's your prognosis? Can we get ourselves out of this mix? And that's kind of a two-pronged question. The ad tech part of this, the fraud
Yeah.
that goes on, and
Yeah.
the threat to individual security and national security. Can we get ourselves out of this mess? These messes?
Not until something major happens. Something's, you know, it's like the 2008 recession. Until something major happened, when who was it that went out of business? What was the brokerage?
Bear
Goldman's-
Bear
Stearns.
Stearns.
Bear
Yeah.
Stearns.
Until, you know, the whole subprime real estate market thing was going on and on and on. And until something big happened, it would have continued. And you know, if something big happens in ad tech world, in tracking world, where something major occurs, and I can't imagine what it would be, but it could happen, then we will see a change, but not until then, I don't think. I think too many people are making too much money, and they're too powerful. The power in the advertising industry is concentrated in too few hands, with too many people who are making too much money.
I think that's probably right. You know, this industry was always one of independent businessmen in different cities across the country, and that's largely gone away.
Yeah.
You know, we all work for 4 or 5 major multinational corporations now.
Yeah. This used to be an industry. The advertising industry used to be an industry of craftspeople. It was copywriters and media people and account people and research people, and they would start an agency, and the agency would grow, and then people who work for them would get fed up, and they'd start their own. You know, they'd be copywriters or art directors or research, and they start their own, and it grew from the bottom up as an industry of craftspeople. But then the Wall Street Sharpies moved in and started buying it all up, and it's no longer an industry that is run by craftspeople. It's an industry that's run by people like Martin Sorrell, who are just financial wise guys. And the result of it is that we are the culture of the industry has changed tremendously, and I've seen it because I've been in it for 1,000 years. The culture has changed a lot, and you know, it's like all industries that become consolidated, service becomes terrible. I mean, I've been on the phone trying to change an air reservation for 2 fucking days. And that's what happens when you have consolidated industries. They don't care. What are you going to do? You're going to call another, you're going to call another airline that's just as bad. You have no option. Try to call your you know, your if you have a brokerage account, try to get someone on the line at your local branch of your bank.
Well, that's why
It's
everything is
impossible.
done everything is done on the phone now. I mean,
Yeah.
but what you're describing, your description of the ad industry today is a apt analogy to what's happened to the internet, which started off as the kind of the wild west, and
Well,
now
it was
it's corporate owned.
decentralized.
Yeah, it was
And now
supposed.
And now everything is conglomerated into like 4 or 5. We've talked about them already. It's Apple, it's Amazon, it's Facebook,
Facebook,
and
Google,
Google, and stop counting. I mean, those are the big players, and
Yeah.
and all the
And that-
subsidiaries that they own.
Yeah, the internet has become the exact opposite of what it was supposed. It was supposed to be a democratizing institution that would, and there's never been a medium that is so concentrated with so few people with so much power and influence in the medium as the internet is. So
And
it's the exact opposite.
for all the talk of diversity, I think a more homogeneous group of like Silicon Valley tech guys.
Yeah, white guys
there's
from
never-
Stanford. Right?
There's never been.
So let me ask you, let's back up and talk about the process of writing the book, because
Yeah.
you and I are writers. What pushed you to want to write the book? Was there an event? Was there a moment that you said, I've got to now take my blog weasel rantings and turn it into a book? What motivated it?
What motivated it was I 5 years ago, I wrote a book called Bad Men,
Mhm.
which was
Great book.
about
Habit.
which was about this same issue, and I wanted to update it. And
There you
so
go.
yeah,
Bad
there
Men,
we go.
promoting
Bad
it.
Men.
Yep.
There you go.
With my
So
markers in it.
So I was going to write, Bad Men 2 or Son of Bad Men or something like that, because 5 years later, it has become so much worse than it was when I wrote Bad Men. And that's, I'd been thinking about that for a couple of years, and I was working on a project. I'm working on an audiobook project, and I said, you know what, I'm going to put the book ahead of the audiobook project because it's more important. So that's what I did, and like with Bad Men, Ad Scam is not. It's not a pleasant read. I mean, a lot of my books, for me, one of the things that makes stuff interesting is silliness. I love silliness. I think advertising has lost a lot of the things, a lot of the silliness that made it interesting, that made us like ads in former
Bob,
years.
I think you're underselling yourself. It may not be pleasant, but your salty comments are laugh out loud funny. They are really wealthy. So don't sell yourself short here.
Okay. Nonetheless, writing a book like Ad Scam, it's not a pleasant experience. There's a lot of bad shit going on, and writing about it is not fun. I'd rather write silly things. But let me put it this way. I'm not a researcher. I can't go in and I can't find out. I can't go under the hood of Adtech and go into the code and see what's happening. But fortunately, there are people who are smart and who report and tell us. My skill is in trying to take that and popularizing it. And by popularizing it, I mean putting into terms that you guys and I can understand, so we can get a handle on what's going on, because the tech guys can't really explain it very well. They're not good at that. They're good at understanding, but they get too deep into the
Weeds.
ones and zeros, which it's absolutely essential that they do that, but someone needs to explain that to average bozos like you and me, and that's what I hope that my book does, and that's where I think I can add value. I can't add value by being a researcher. I could add value by being a popularizer.
And you've done that brilliantly. I think you've taken some very difficult concepts and made it easily understandable. And as I told you before we hit the record button, I inhaled this book on a flight that I took recently. It's not a very long book at all, and most of your books are pretty short. And
Yeah.
I have to apologize to you though, Bob. I've defaced it by highlighting.
God
it, so
damn it.
I know you know, I'll buy another one.
So let me
Yeah.
ask you another writer's question. So you said
Yeah.
you considered calling it Bad Men 2 or something.
Yeah,
As someone who grew up in the 70s, I remember the ab scam scandal.
Right,
Is that
right.
kind of was the genesis of this, or?
Yeah, well, actually, that played a role in it. The biggest role, there's a guy named George Parker. I don't know if you know George. He's even older and even surlier than I am.
Oh,
And
great guest material. Write it down, Howard.
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
And George writes a blog called Ad Scam. And I thought it was the perfect title for my book. So I wrote to George and I said, hey, George. And fortunately, I know George. We know each other and we've had a drink or two together over the years. He lives up in Boise, Idaho. So I said, hey, George, I'm writing a book and Ad Scam would be the perfect title for it. Would you mind if I use that? And he said, no, go ahead and use it. Just send me a Porsche. So I bought a miniature Porsche, with the battery operated, and I sent it to him, and we had a nice laugh over that. But no, he was very generous in allowing me to use
It's a great name.
his nomenclature.
And like I
Yeah.
said, it's evocative of
Yeah.
that big scandal in the 70s.
Right.
But it requires a person of a certain age or a certain erudition to even be aware of
That's
that.
true.
But I thought it was perfectly chosen.
I was that nerdy kid in the 70s who followed
yeah.
current events.
Me too.
Dude, you still are the nerdy kid.
So changing directions just a little bit,
Yeah.
and unless there's something about this book that we didn't ask you about that you really want to address, I wanted to.
Well, you mentioned that it's a short book, and it's intentionally a short. I like to write short books because I think most business books are about 30% content and 70% bullshit, and that's why I don't read most business books. So I tried to. Also, I wanted the book to be. This is going to sound like real bullshit, but it's the best I can do. I wanted it to be impressionistic. I didn't want a 500-page book on all the things that someone wrote that already. A lady named Shoshana something, brilliant, Harvard. She wrote a book about the surveillance economy, and it was a brilliant book, but it was too dense for me. I couldn't get through it, and I didn't want to write one of those. I wanted to write a book like it's simple essays, and you could read it, and by the time you're finished with it, you have you know what the deal is. You don't need every little detail. So
it's
more
journalistic.
an impressionistic view of what's going on.
And the average marketer doesn't have the bandwidth or the attention span to get into something that's so technical.
Yeah, it's like long form journalism that's very informative. It's well researched. Bob, you've got some great sources out there, but it tells a great story. It's a great narrative.
Yeah. Thank you.
So let me just give you the opportunity. What else in your world is going on that you'd like to share with us?
Well, like I said, I'm working on an audiobook, and that is such a pain in the ass. I can't even begin to tell you. But I'm hoping to have it out by the holiday season, which means I have about 3 weeks.
Is it one of your existing books that you're doing?
No, it is a compilation of conversations like this, things I've recorded, essays I've written that I've recorded, and talks that I've given that I have recordings of. So it's a compilation, and it should be pretty good, I think. It's not about any of the stuff we're talking about today. It's about the art of, it's called the simple art of advertising. And it's going to be about how we've lost track of what we're supposed to be doing, and we're way down in the weeds, and we've forgotten the basics of what we should be doing as advertisers.
So why
can-
audio instead of writing another book?
I can make more money on an audio book than I can. I
That's a
can't
good
make any
reason.
money. Yeah, the only money I make on these books goes to Jeff Bezos. I get, you know, I sell a book, I get 37 cents, and he gets $7.22, something like that. So an audio book I can control better, and so, you know, every now and then I like to make a little money too. So
I
that's
would recommend that maybe your next book you do with Ingram Spark, and Ingram Spark will place the book on Amazon, and you'll get the exact opposite of the payment. 'Cause that's what my books are published on
Yeah.
Ingram Spark, and Jeff Bezos gets 40 cents and I get $6.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to ready to retire anytime soon, but in
Yeah,
any event, when your book is ready,
Yeah.
you've already got Henry and my third invitation to come back and talk about
Okay,
that book.
the
We'd love
audio
to have
book.
you.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
the audiobook,
Great.
definitely. Well, Bob,
Hell yeah.
this has
Yeah.
been a great pleasure to have you back on the Brief
Absolutely.
Brothers. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me, and have a nice holiday season, and good luck to you guys.
Thanks so much. Good stuff, Henry.
Good stuff, Howard.
He's Henry Gomez.
And he's Howard Eibach. And together we're the Brief Brothers. Till next time. Bye-bye.